15 famous people who have been to jail. Number 15. Paul McCartney. The iconic Beatles member went to jail for 10 days after being caught with a half-pound of marijuana at Tokyo's airport back in the 1980s. The Wings tour in Japan was quickly cancelled, and even though he insisted that the cannabis was only for his personal use, he faced a possibility of a 7-year jail sentence at the time for smuggling the drug. Over the years, he was denied entry in Japan due to several busts, as Japan is very strict with their drug laws. Luckily for the famed musician, authorities released him after he started to become a model inmate and was deported back to America with no charges filed. Number 14. Jamie Waylett. Best known for playing bully Vincent Crabbe in the Harry Potter film series, Waylett was arrested for participating in the England riots back in 2011. The Metro Police Department arrested him and charged him with violent disorder with intent to receive stolen goods and to damage property. He was initially accused of owning a petrol bomb while ransacking a chemist in Chalk Farm, London. In 2012, he was sentenced to 2 years in jail for his involvement in the riots, and during his trial, his lawyer stated that he struggled with his fame, and even though he had the good fortune to star in the Harry Potter movies, it turned out to be unfortunate for him at the end, citing he had become a shriveled-up actor by the age of 22. Number 13. LilKim. The rapper was sentenced to jail in 2005 for 366 days and fined a hefty $50,000 for lying to a federal grand jury to protect her friends involved in a shootout. During the trial of her co-manager, bodyguard, and former Mafia hip-hop member, she said she was unaware that they were at the scene, but security camera footage showed all three there. Fortunately for the entertainer, she was released early for good behavior. She was considered one of the first female high-profile rappers to receive a prison sentence. After she was released, she was put under house arrest and remained under supervised release for 3 years. Number 12. Mark Wahlberg. Before Wahlberg formed Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, the rapper-turned-actor sold drugs and was tried for attempted murder. Back in the late 1980s, when he was only 16 years old, Wahlberg attacked an Asian doctor crossing the street with a large wooden stick. Wahlberg knocked him over to the ground while calling him racist names. The doctor fortunately recovered at the hospital. Later that same day, Wahlberg also attacked another Asian man, and for these crimes, he was charged and sentenced to 2 years in jail. Although he only served 45 days, he still carries a felony on his record. After his release from prison, he decided to change his behavior and left his street gang and a life of crime behind for good. Number 11. Tommy Lee. Back in 1998, the Motley Crue band member served 6 months in the Big House for domestic violence against his wife, Pamela Anderson. Even though he pleaded no contest, the judge also ordered him to pay $6,200 to a victim restitution program and a domestic violence fund. He was also prohibited from contacting his wife, and he was required to enroll in a counseling program and perform community service. The couple divorced in 1998. Regardless of the incident, Anderson and Lee tried to make their relationship work and reunited again in 2008 before fully separating for good. Number 10. Lauryn Hill. The former Fugees band member was sentenced to 3 months in the Big House in 2012 for failing to pay more than $1.5 million in taxes from earnings garnered 2005 to 2007. But the singer tried to remain bright about her experience and even listed the positive aspects of the situation on her Tumblr page. She said that she stopped paying taxes after she stepped out of the spotlight and was unable to, but eventually planned to pay them back. After her release, she put out a single called Consumerism that she finished while in jail. In fact, Judge Madeline Cox Arleo even allowed the singer to postpone part of her confinement so she could tour in late 2013, but under strict conditions. Number 9. Don King. King has allegedly been involved in many scandals throughout his career, which includes having connections to organized crime with John Gotti, withholding money from boxers he managed like Larry Holmes, and for jury tampering and tax evasion. But his most infamous controversies include being a cold-blooded killer. The legendary boxing promoter spent 3.5 years in jail for murder and manslaughter back in 1967. He had stomped one of his employees to death, and after being released, he was pardoned in 1983. In an earlier separate incident back in 1954, he was charged for shooting when someone was trying to rob one of his gambling houses. Number 8. Paris Hilton. Back in 2007, the hotel heiress spent only 3 days in jail despite a 45-day sentence. The reality star was charged with reckless driving in January and got off with 36 months of probation, but the California Highway Patrol later pulled her over and discovered she was driving with a suspended license, where she signed documentation acknowledging she was not allowed to drive, but just a month later, she violated her probation. Due to overcrowding and medical reasons, the starlet got released 41 days earlier than expected, so I guess it pays to be rich and famous. After she had been released, she told CNN's Larry King of her traumatic experience, calling the food horrible and vowing never to put herself through something like that again. Number 7. Christian Slater. It's probably well forgotten now, but in the late 90s, the actor was involved in a series of arrests. In 1989, he was sentenced 10 days in jail for assault and drunk driving. Then in 1994, he was arrested again for attempting to board a plane with a gun in his bag. 3 years later, he was involved in a fight in a bid to prevent a man from hitting his then-girlfriend, Michelle Jonas. He told the police that he was under the influence of several drugs for several days, like heroin and cocaine, and said that he had been drinking and only had a few hours of sleep. He was sentenced to 3 months in jail and spent over 100 days in a rehab facility. Almost a decade later, the actor was arrested again and charged with sexual abuse in the 3rd degree after he allegedly sexually abused a lady on the street. But luckily for Slater, the charges were dropped as long as he kept out of trouble for at least 6 months. Number 6. Khloe Kardashian. Another celebrity who was released from jail early due to overcrowding is Kardashian's sister, Khloe Kardashian. Back in March 2007, she was arrested for a DUI, and 16 months later, she turned herself in at the police station to serve time for violation of probation. The reality star faced a 30-day sentence and enrollment in an alcohol treatment program 3 weeks after her release, but only spent a total of 3 hours in jail. Number 5. Michelle Rodriguez. Famous for starring in the Fast and Furious film franchise, the actress spent 18 days in jail for violating her probation from a DUI. Back in May 2006, she only did 4 hours and 20 minutes of a 2-month sentence due to overcrowding. Additionally, she was also given a 5-day jail sentence in Hawaii that same year for a separate drunk driving case. She stated that high doses of allergy-relieving steroids were the cause of her behavior. Then in 2007, the Lost actress allegedly violated her probation by not finishing her community service work and failing to follow an alcohol education program. She was sentenced to 180 days in jail, but was released after only serving 18 days in prison because of overcrowding. Wow, a lot of these jails seem to have an overpopulation issue. Number 4. Shia LaBeouf. The former Disney star has several run-ins with the law. In June 2014, the actor was escorted out of a musical performance for displaying bizarre behavior. He stood up in the middle of the play and started yelling at the actor, screaming, "Do you know my life?" He was charged with disorderly conduct, harassment, and trespassing and spent the night in jail. Then in October 2015, he was arrested again for public intoxication while roaming the streets in Austin, Texas, and booked into jail overnight. In early 2017, he was allegedly arrested again after a quarrel with the man outside of his anti-Donald Trump art induction. Number 3. Justin Bieber. Teen girls around the world pleaded for Justin Bieber's release after the singer was booked and jailed back in 2014. The Canadian singer was arrested in Miami, Florida for drag racing. According to the singer, he stated that the whole ordeal sucked, and the worst part was that it was freezing in his cell. He defended himself and went on to say that he was targeted by some cops who wanted a shot at fame. Bieber disputed that the police who arrested him wanted to be famous for taking in celebrities. He goes on to say that he wasn't speeding and wasn't drunk. Luckily for Bieber, his whole ordeal didn't last too long and was released 24 hours later. Number 2. SHELLEY MALIL. Best known for playing alongside Steve Carell in the hit movie The 40-Year-Old Virgin, the actor was charged with assault with a deadly weapon and attempted premeditated murder of his ex-girlfriend Kendra Beebe. Luckily, she survived the attack back in 2008, but suffered from severe wounds throughout her entire body after he stabbed her 20 times when he caught her drinking wine with another man inside her home. During the trial, Malil showed regret for his actions and he was sentenced to life in prison. According to his conviction, he will be eligible for a parole hearing in 2022. Number 1. Martha Stewart. The television personality host spent 5 months in jail for lying to federal investigators when being questioned for corporate fraud in late 2001. She was involved in insider trading, where a person sells or purchases stocks by utilizing non-public information given to them by the employees of a company. Insider trading is illegal and considered a serious offense. In the months of her scandal, Martha denied the allegations. She was forced to step down as the CEO of her company, Martha Stewart Living Omni Media, and from the stock exchange's board of directors. She was finally arrested in June 2003, much to the shock of her fans and the public, due to her pure and wholesome image. She was convicted of securities fraud, obstruction of justice, and other minor crimes. Stewart maintained her innocence the entire time, and the conviction ensued 5 months in jail, 5 months of house arrest, and 2 years probation after her release. But she didn't let this incident get her down. In fact, after her sentence ended in March 2005, she bounced back into the spotlight and wrote 2 new books and hosted a few different shows. She remains extremely successful in her endeavors, and as hard as it is to believe, many thought that doing time in jail even skyrocketed her career further. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.